Within every woman lives a world she rarely reveals. A world shaped by desire, identity, and the emotional truth she often hides even from herself. Her desire is not a hunger for touch alone. It is a longing to be seen, understood, valued, and to live as the full expression of who she truly is. But society has whispered to her for generations, be quiet, be good, be enough for everyone else, even if it costs you yourself. And so, a woman learns to silence her own voice. She learns to shrink her needs, soften her strength, and pretend that everything is fine. Yet the truth is this: one's real identity never dies. It may go quiet, but it never disappears. And when a woman suppresses her desire, when she disconnects from her emotional truth, a quiet ache begins to grow inside her. She fulfills everyone's expectations, yet feels empty. She gives endlessly, yet feels unseen. This is the secret she carries, the one she rarely allows anyone to witness. But emotional truth is a woman's greatest power. When she turns inward and listens to her heart, when she honors her needs, her dreams, her pain, something miraculous begins to happen. A light emerges inside her, steady, warm, and fearless. It doesn't just change her life, it changes everyone connected to her. Because when a woman awakens, she doesn't rise alone. She lifts a generation with her. Real freedom begins the moment she stops fearing her own truth. When she understands that desire is not weakness but the heartbeat of her humanity. When she realizes that identity is not something inherited but something chosen. When she embraces her emotional truth not as a burden, but as a divine compass pointing her toward the life she was meant to live. A woman who walks through this inner journey does not merely transform. She rediscovers herself. She understands that she wasn't created to exist silently in the shadows. She was created with intention, purpose, and brilliance. She speaks with clarity, loves with depth, and moves with an authority that comes only from self-discovery. If you are a woman listening to this, remember, your desire is your voice, your identity is your strength, and your emotional truth is your light. Do not shrink it. Do not hide it. Do not hand it over to a world that benefits from your silence. Honor it, grow from it, stand inside it. A woman's desire is often misunderstood, simplified, or reduced to something purely physical, when in truth, it is one of the deepest reflections of her inner world. Desire, for a woman, is not simply a feeling that rises and fades. It is tied to her identity, her emotional landscape, and her sense of meaning in life. It holds layers: spiritual, psychological, relational, and personal. When she feels desire, it is often a sign that her inner self wants to live more fully, express more honestly, and connect more authentically. It is the language of her inner freedom. It shows where she feels alive, where she feels suffocated, and where her truth is calling her. A woman's desire is shaped by her experiences, her wounds, her dreams, and the stories she has been told about who she should be. Many women grow up learning that wanting something deeply makes them selfish, dramatic, or difficult. They are taught to wait, to adjust, to tolerate, to make space for others, even when no one makes space for them. Over time, desire becomes something they learn to hide. They bury it under responsibilities, silence it under fears, or replace it with what others expect from them. But the truth is that desire doesn't disappear just because she stops speaking it. It settles inside her, turning into longing, restlessness, or emotional numbness. Her outer life continues, but her inner world starts to dim, and this is where desire becomes deeply connected to her identity. What a woman desires reveals who she really is. It reveals what she values, what she fears losing, what she needs to feel whole, and what parts of herself she has outgrown. When her desire is dismissed, she starts to dismiss herself. When her longing is ignored, she slowly stops listening to her inner voice. When she allows others to define what she should want, she begins to forget the truth of her own heart. A woman who disconnects from her desire walks through life with a shadow of herself, doing what is expected but never stepping into the fullness of who she could be. Yet when a woman reconnects with her desire, the transformation is profound. She begins to remember her strength. She realizes that her needs are not burdens but signposts guiding her toward the life she was meant to live. Desire becomes the bridge between who she has been and who she is becoming. It awakens courage, the courage to set boundaries, to speak her truth, to say no when something steals her peace, and to say yes to what brings her joy. It gives her the power to shed identities that were never hers and step into ones that feel authentic. Desire also deepens her emotional truth. It shows her where she feels disconnected, unfulfilled, or unseen. It reveals where she has been settling for less, where she has been overgiving, and where her soul is asking her to rise higher. It pushes her to ask questions she may have avoided. What do I truly want? What do I need to feel alive? What part of me have I been silencing? These questions are not selfish, they are sacred. They pull her towards self-awareness, emotional clarity, and inner freedom. When a woman honors her desire, she becomes more aligned with her true identity. She stops living for approval and starts living for truth. She becomes more present, more grounded, more vibrant. Her relationships become more honest. Her decisions become more intentional. Her confidence grows, not because she becomes perfect, but because she finally becomes herself. Through this process, she discovers that desire is not a weakness but a compass. It is not a flaw but a form of wisdom. It is not something to fear but something to understand and embrace. When she listens to it, she steps into a life shaped not by suppression but by authenticity. Identity is the quiet foundation of a woman's life, the unseen framework that shapes how she experiences the world and herself. It is built not only from her actions and accomplishments, but from her inner convictions, her unspoken truths, and the desires she allows herself to feel. Yet identity is fragile when it is not consciously nurtured. For many women, identity begins to fragment when they suppress their inner voice, ignore their longings, or live according to what others expect, rather than what their soul truly desires. It is not an abrupt fracture, but a slow, almost invisible erosion that can leave her feeling lost, disconnected, or emotionally exhausted. She may carry the appearance of a complete, composed self, yet internally there is a sense of dislocation, a gap between who she appears to be and who she truly is. The process of suppressing one's inner voice often starts early, shaped by family expectations, cultural norms, and societal pressures. Women are frequently taught to prioritize the comfort and desires of others over their own. They learn to be agreeable, accommodating, and selfless, sometimes at the cost of their own identity. Over time, this repeated pattern of self-denial causes her to doubt her own instincts, to question the validity of her desires, and to mistrust the signals her heart and mind give her. She may begin to ask herself, "Am I too much? Am I wrong to want this? Who am I if I follow my own path instead of theirs?" These questions, left unanswered, quietly erode the sense of self. Emotional experiences also play a significant role in shaping identity. When a woman suppresses her feelings, chooses to ignore her pain, or denies her joy, she creates an internal dissonance. She may feel unworthy of attention, love, or recognition because she has habitually silenced the part of herself that wants to be seen. Every decision to ignore her intuition or set aside her needs chips away at her sense of who she is. Identity is not merely about external labels or achievements. It is deeply connected to authenticity. When she cannot express her truth, her identity begins to fracture, leaving a hollow space where self-recognition and self-respect should reside. Yet, it is important to understand that the fracturing of identity is not permanent, nor is it a sign of failure. It is a signal, a call to awareness, a reminder that the inner self has been overlooked for too long. When a woman acknowledges the parts of herself she has hidden, her dreams, her preferences, her fears, she begins the process of reclaiming her identity. It starts with small acts of honesty, admitting what she wants, recognizing her emotions, setting boundaries, and allowing herself to prioritize her own needs. Each act of self-recognition strengthens the foundation of identity, reinforcing the understanding that she is not defined by others' expectations, but by her own truth. As this reclamation unfolds, she discovers that her identity is not static, it is fluid, evolving, and resilient. She realizes that she has the right to change, to grow, and to explore new dimensions of herself without guilt or fear. Suppressing her inner voice may have caused confusion, but listening to it restores clarity. She begins to notice patterns, understand motivations, and embrace the complexities of her personality. The process of reconnecting with her inner voice is transformative because it integrates all aspects of her being, the desires, the emotions, the values, and the aspirations, into a coherent and authentic identity. When a woman nurtures her identity through awareness and expression, she moves from living reactively to living intentionally. She no longer measures her worth through the approval of others, nor does she shape her life solely to fit expectations. Instead, she experiences a sense of wholeness and alignment. Her choices, relationships, and actions begin to reflect the truth of who she is. Even in moments of doubt or struggle, her identity becomes a source of stability, guiding her toward decisions that honor her inner self. The journey of rediscovering identity is not always easy, but it is essential. It reconnects her with her inner wisdom, awakens her courage, and allows her to stand fully in her power, confident in the knowledge that she is whole and worthy simply because she exists as her authentic self. Emotional truth is the unspoken compass that guides a woman through her life, often more profoundly than logic or reason ever could. It is the raw, unfiltered awareness of what she feels, thinks, and desires at the deepest level. Unlike surface emotions, which may fluctuate based on circumstances or external pressures, emotional truth is enduring. It reflects the alignment or misalignment between her inner self and the life she is living. When a woman is in touch with her emotional truth, she experiences clarity, purpose, and an inner power that radiates into every aspect of her life. It is the difference between merely existing and truly living, between responding to the world and creating her own path with conscious intention. For many women, accessing emotional truth is not simple. Society often teaches them to suppress feelings, to prioritize harmony over honesty, and to seek validation externally rather than internally. They are encouraged to be pleasant, to manage moods, and to ensure that others' comfort outweighs their own. Over time, these lessons can lead to disconnection from their authentic emotions. When she ignores her sadness, fear, anger, or longing, these feelings do not vanish. They accumulate, creating tension, restlessness, or subtle forms of self-betrayal. Emotional truth is like a river. If blocked, it either stagnates or forces a hidden path, sometimes causing pain or confusion. Ignoring it may seem easier, but it comes at the cost of her identity, relationships, and inner peace. Recognizing emotional truth requires courage because it often exposes vulnerabilities that have been hidden for years. It asks a woman to confront the parts of herself she may have denied, the unspoken desires, the disappointments, the suppressed ambitions, and the unexpressed needs. These emotions are not signs of weakness. They are signals pointing her towards self-awareness and growth. When she allows herself to feel fully, without judgment or suppression, she begins to understand the subtle patterns of her life, where she has compromised herself, where she has ignored her intuition, and where she has been settling for less than she deserves. Emotional truth illuminates these areas, not to condemn her, but to guide her toward choices that honor her inner self. Engaging with emotional truth transforms decision-making. Instead of being led solely by fear, obligation, or external expectation, she begins to act from a place of alignment with her core values and genuine desires. She starts to see which relationships nurture her, which environments allow her to flourish, and which situations quietly drain her spirit. By acknowledging her emotions, she gains insight into her boundaries, her strengths, and the areas that require healing. Emotional truth is both a mirror and a map. It reflects who she is in the present moment and points toward the life she is meant to live. Moreover, emotional truth deepens her connections with others. When a woman understands her own feelings, she can communicate them more clearly, empathize more authentically, and engage in relationships with honesty rather than performance. Others respond to this authenticity. They sense the integrity of her presence and are inspired to interact on a deeper level. Emotional truth is contagious. It invites honesty and trust, creating a ripple effect of clarity and openness in her personal and professional life. It allows her to shed masks, break patterns of dependency, and cultivate relationships based on mutual respect and understanding, rather than fear or obligation. Emotional truth also strengthens resilience. Life inevitably brings challenges, setbacks, and losses, but when a woman is grounded in her emotional reality, she navigates difficulties with greater poise and insight. She does not suppress pain or numb disappointment. She acknowledges it, learns from it, and integrates it into her evolving self. This process creates a deep well of wisdom, courage, and inner stability. She becomes less swayed by external chaos and more anchored in her own sense of clarity and purpose. Ultimately, emotional truth is a form of empowerment. It is the bridge between desire and identity, between thought and action, between what is and what could be. When a woman honors her emotional truth, she awakens a life of authenticity, creativity, and intentionality. She becomes the author of her own story, guided not by fear, obligation, or expectation, but by the clear and undeniable knowledge of what resonates with her soul. Emotional truth is the key that unlocks her inner power, allowing her to live fully, love deeply, and walk her path with confidence and grace. Self-abandonment is a quiet, insidious force that shapes the lives of many women, often without their conscious awareness. It begins subtly, in small compromises that feel necessary, agreeing to something she does not want, prioritizing others' comfort over her own, or neglecting her personal needs to maintain harmony. Over time, these acts accumulate into a pattern where the woman's own voice is muted, her preferences sidelined, and her inner life placed in the background. This constant deferral of self leads to a profound disconnection from her true essence. She becomes a caretaker, a supporter, a performer in the lives of others, but often at the cost of her own joy, fulfillment, and sense of purpose. Her internal world, the one that holds her dreams, desires, and authentic self, quietly fades into the shadows. The roots of self-abandonment often trace back to societal conditioning. From a young age, women are taught to be selfless, to nurture, and to seek approval through compliance. They learn that saying no is rude, that asserting their own needs is selfish, and that their worth is tied to how much they give to others. This creates a tension between the woman's inner truth and external expectations, forcing her to constantly navigate between who she is and who she is expected to be. Over time, this tension becomes habitual. She stops recognizing her own signals and begins to measure herself exclusively by how well she meets others' needs. What begins as a willingness to compromise evolves into a silent, ongoing betrayal of the self. Self-abandonment is not only about external obligations, it is also deeply emotional. Women who suppress their desires, ignore their feelings, or avoid confronting uncomfortable truths gradually lose touch with their inner wisdom. The unexpressed emotions, anger, sadness, longing, fear, do not disappear. Instead, they manifest as restlessness, irritability, or an undefined sense of emptiness. The more she ignores these signals, the louder the inner dissonance becomes, creating a subtle but persistent stress that affects her well-being, her relationships, and her clarity of purpose. She may feel exhausted, anxious, or emotionally numb, without fully understanding that the source of this tension is her own self-denial. This pattern also impacts relationships. When a woman consistently prioritizes others over herself, she communicates a subtle message that her needs are secondary. While she may receive temporary appreciation or validation, the long-term effect is often a sense of invisibility or resentment. She may feel unrecognized or unvalued, even in environments where her contributions are substantial. Ironically, the act of giving endlessly without reciprocity erodes the very foundation of meaningful connection, because relationships thrive on authenticity, balance, and mutual respect. By abandoning herself, she unwittingly distances others from the fullness of who she truly is. The transformative shift begins when a woman consciously notices these patterns and takes responsibility for her inner life. It starts with small choices, listening to her intuition, honoring her feelings, asserting boundaries, and allowing herself to experience her desires without guilt. Each act of self-recognition reclaims a piece of her energy and restores a connection to her authentic self. She learns that prioritizing her own needs is not selfish, it is necessary for her growth, her fulfillment, and her ability to contribute meaningfully to the world. As she reconnects with herself, she discovers that self-abandonment is not a permanent condition, but a learned habit that can be reversed through consistent awareness and intentional action. Reclaiming herself, also brings clarity and strength. She begins to see the difference between giving from abundance and giving from scarcity, between choosing from alignment and choosing from fear or obligation. Emotional honesty becomes central to her life, and she no longer compromises her values or dreams for fleeting approval. By honoring her inner voice, she nurtures her identity, strengthens her emotional intelligence, and awakens a sense of empowerment that radiates outward. Self-abandonment transforms from a silent, consuming force into a conscious practice of self-care, self-respect, and authentic engagement with the world. Ultimately, recognizing and reversing self-abandonment allows a woman to live fully. She learns that her energy, her time, and her emotions are sacred, and that honoring them is not an act of indulgence but of necessity. By reclaiming herself, she awakens a life of intention, depth, and vitality, reconnecting with the very essence that makes her unique, powerful, and fully alive. Each step toward her own truth strengthens her ability to love, lead, and engage with the world in ways that are meaningful, balanced, and profoundly authentic. When a woman begins to honor her desires, she embarks on a journey that fundamentally transforms her sense of self and the way she experiences the world. Honoring desire is not merely about indulging in fleeting pleasures or chasing superficial goals. It is about recognizing the sacred signals of her inner self and responding with respect, intention, and courage. Desire, in its truest form, is a mirror of the soul. It reveals what she values, what she needs to feel alive, and what is essential for her growth. When a woman honors her desires, she is no longer living on autopilot, reacting to external pressures or measuring her worth through the lens of others' expectations. Instead, she begins to align her actions with her inner truth, creating a life that is authentic, fulfilling, and deeply satisfying. Honoring desire requires awareness and courage. For many women, desires have been suppressed for years, buried under layers of obligation, guilt, and social conditioning. They have been taught to prioritize others, to wait, and to minimize their own needs. When a woman begins to acknowledge what she truly wants, she confronts years of habit and conditioning. It can feel uncomfortable, even frightening, because it challenges the familiar patterns of living that have defined her life. Yet it is precisely in this discomfort that transformation occurs. The act of listening to her desires and giving them space is an act of self-respect, a declaration that her inner life matters and deserves attention. As she honors her desires, a woman cultivates inner strength and clarity. She learns to distinguish between genuine longing and temporary impulses, between what nurtures her soul and what distracts or diminishes it. Desire becomes a guide, pointing her toward experiences, relationships, and choices that resonate with her true self. By consciously engaging with her wants and needs, she gains insight into her priorities, her values, and her boundaries. This clarity empowers her to make decisions that support her well-being rather than compromise it, and it fosters a sense of agency that transforms every aspect of her life. Honoring desire also strengthens a woman's sense of identity. Identity and desire are deeply intertwined. What she wants is a reflection of who she is becoming. When she respects her longings, she validates her inner truth and reinforces the connection to her authentic self. She stops bending herself to fit roles or expectations that do not serve her and begins to embody the person she was always meant to be. In this process, she discovers a profound alignment between who she is internally and how she moves through the world externally. Her actions, choices, and interactions begin to reflect coherence, integrity, and confidence, creating a ripple effect that influences all areas of her life. The impact of honoring desire extends into her relationships as well. When a woman is clear about what she wants and communicates it respectfully, she cultivates authenticity and mutual respect with those around her. Relationships become less about obligation or compromise and more about conscious connection and reciprocity. Others sense her alignment and integrity, which fosters trust, deeper intimacy, and meaningful engagement. By honoring herself first, she actually enhances her capacity to give, to love, and to contribute positively, because her energy is no longer drained by self-neglect or suppression. Finally, Honoring desire is a spiritual practice, a recognition that her life is a sacred expression of her being. It teaches her that her voice, her choices, and her needs are valid and valuable. By allowing herself to want, to seek, and to pursue what resonates with her heart, she embraces a life of purpose and vitality. She learns that fulfillment is not a destination, but a continuous engagement with her truth, a practice of listening to herself and acting in alignment with her deepest wisdom. The woman who honors her desires becomes grounded, radiant, and empowered, a presence that is impossible to ignore. She walks through life with dignity, awareness, and an inner joy that cannot be taken away, because it is born from the deepest alignment between her heart, her mind, and her soul. When a woman begins to reveal her inner secrets, the truths she has long held close, and the aspects of herself she has been taught to conceal, it sets in motion a profound transformation that touches every dimension of her life. The act of unveiling her hidden self is not merely about confession or vulnerability. It is about stepping into authenticity, acknowledging her desires, and embracing her emotional truth without fear or apology. This revelation has the power to illuminate her path, reshape her relationships, and bring clarity and purpose to the life she leads. It is a courageous act, because it challenges societal norms that have conditioned women to remain small, silent, or invisible. By facing her hidden truths, she asserts the legitimacy of her inner world and validates the full spectrum of her identity. The process of revealing her secrets often begins internally, with self-reflection and awareness. A woman must first recognize the parts of herself that have been suppressed or ignored, her dreams, desires, fears, and longings. These hidden aspects are not weaknesses, they are expressions of her true self that have been muted by fear, guilt, or social expectation. Acknowledging them requires honesty, courage, and patience. It involves sitting with discomfort, confronting insecurities, and accepting that she is more complex, nuanced, and multidimensional than she has been allowed to be. This internal confrontation is transformative because it reconnects her with her own authority, her ability to discern, and her capacity to live intentionally. Revealing her inner truths also strengthens a woman's relationships in profound ways. When she is willing to show her authentic self, she invites others to do the same. It fosters honesty, mutual understanding, and intimacy that is rooted in authenticity rather than performance. People respond to her courage and transparency, they feel safe in her presence, and interactions become deeper and more meaningful. By being open about who she is, what she wants, and how she feels, she sets a standard of integrity in her relationships. This does not mean she will always be met with acceptance, but it ensures that the connections she maintains are genuine and aligned with her values. At the same time, revealing her secrets illuminates her own life path. Her hidden truths often act as guideposts, pointing toward areas of growth, fulfillment, and purpose. When she listens to her inner voice and respects her emotional and spiritual needs, she gains clarity about her direction, priorities, and goals. Secrets, once acknowledged and integrated, transform from burdens into sources of insight and empowerment. They reveal the patterns, habits, and relationships that have limited her, and they highlight the opportunities that align with her deepest truth. In this way, revealing her inner world is not just an act of vulnerability, it is an act of wisdom, self-mastery, and alignment with her purpose. Moreover, the courage to reveal her truths nurtures resilience and inner strength. Life inevitably challenges a woman, presenting obstacles, disappointments, and moments of doubt. By being intimately aware of her inner self, she develops a foundation of strength that is impervious to external judgment or criticism. Her sense of self becomes anchored in authenticity rather than in the approval of others. She learns to navigate the complexities of life with discernment and grace, making choices that honor her core values and emotional truth. In doing so, she becomes both grounded and dynamic, capable of embracing change and adversity without losing sight of who she truly is. Revealing her inner truths also has spiritual implications. It aligns her with her essence, her purpose, and her sense of divine order. By acknowledging her desires, identity, and emotional reality, she moves through life with clarity, intentionality, and alignment with her higher self. It allows her to integrate all aspects of her being, the light and shadow, the strength and vulnerability, into a cohesive, empowered, and authentic presence. This integration brings a profound sense of wholeness, inner peace, and confidence that radiates outward, transforming the way she interacts with the world. Ultimately, when a woman reveals her inner truths, she awakens her full potential. She lives with authenticity, passion, and courage. She engages with the world not from fear or obligation, but from a deep understanding of herself and her purpose. In doing so, she illuminates not only her own path, but also inspires others to embrace their truth, creating ripples of authenticity, empowerment, and transformation that extend far beyond her own life. Thank you so much for your time and support. I truly appreciate it. Wishing you all the best. Goodbye for now.